most experienced GPs will tell you that the moment a patient walks into their surgery, not all the time, but a lot of the time, they can pretty much tell straight away what's going on. Maybe that they've changed in appearance since they last saw them. Maybe their skin tone's changed. Maybe they wince when they sit down. They start to form a judgment face-to-face. And there are growing calls for mandatory face-to-face GP appointments following the tragic death of a 33-year-old mother of three who was misdiagnosed over the telephone.
Well, Laura Barlow died of liver and colon cancer after being told she likely had endometriosis. And her husband, Mike, in fact, her whole family, believe a face-to-face appointment would have detected the cancer sooner now and given Laura valuable time and the chance at treatment. OK, we're going to have a chat with Mike in a second, and also our own doctor, Dr Hilary. But first, here's Fran Lanuri with more on Laura's story.
Laura Barlow died within weeks of being diagnosed with cancer, leaving behind her husband and 3 young children. She knew something was wrong when she started having severe abdominal pain and noticed blood in her stool. Her husband Mike says on the 29th of October in 2023, Laura had a telephone appointment with a GP and was diagnosed with suspected endometriosis. In December, a gynecology appointment was made for February, but on the 29th of December, Mike says Laura was in pain and tried to see her GP in person. The GP, he said, advised him to take Laura to urgent care, but she was sent home to await the gynecology appointment. Laura visited A&E 3 times between the 31st of December and the 19th of January and received tests and scans, and then again on the 23rd of January, when she was told she had cancer. Laura died on the 5th of February, aged 33. A petition started in her name for mandatory face-to-face consultations for all GP appointments has more than 100,000 signatures, with Mike determined that no one else experiences the tragedy his family has suffered.
Well, Mike Barlow joins us now alongside our own Dr Hilary. Mike, this is a tough thing that you talk about. It's very raw and very difficult. Why do you believe a face-to-face consultation... We really appreciate you doing it, by the way. Why do you believe the face-to-face consultation would have made a difference?
The doctor would have seen how pain my wife would have been and done some tests, bloods, and sent her to A&E. We didn't get the opportunity.
No.
When they diagnosed her over the phone, they all told me to pick up some painkillers and said they refer her to gynaecologist. We didn't get a gynaecologist letter till mid-December, and then my wife got poorly again near the end of December. I took my wife to the hospital, to the surgery. No one in the waiting room. I asked the lady on desk, I said, can the doctor come up and see my wife? I left her in the car in pain. She come back and said, doctor said, take her to urgent care. Their excuse now is they didn't want to take my wife out of the car because she was in pain. I had to take my wife out of the car to take her to urgent care in pain. What's the difference?
When she got this diagnosis over the phone, she put the phone down, turned around to presumably and said, right, they said it's endometriosis. Was she happy with the diagnosis, or did she suspect something wasn't quite right?
We believed the doctor. And that's what doctors are there for, to tell us what's wrong with my wife or wrong with anyone else.
So no alarm bells were going off at that point?
No. My wife told the doctor she had blood in the stool and pains and gave her some painkillers. So we believed our own doctor.
And yet this diagnosis was completely wrong?
Yes.
It couldn't have been more wrong.
No.
And as time ticked by, it wasn't just that she was waiting to see a specialist for a condition she didn't have. The illness that was the real illness that was going to take her life was gathering force and gathering strength.
Yeah. What I'm annoyed about is no blood got done from end of October till the end of December. If blood got done in November, could we started chemo? Could we have 6 months? Could we have a year? We'll never know. You took that opportunity away from us.
Well, I know there's specific things you'd like to see change, but let's talk to Dr Hilary. You can see why that feels almost unbearable for Mike and other families that have been through it.
Of course, Mike is right that had Laura been seen face-to-face at the outset, then the outcome could have been very different. Absolutely true. One should always see abdominal pain, chest pain, anybody in persistent pain face-to-face. You can't diagnose endometriosis over the phone, full stop. It's a difficult thing to diagnose. one should never assume a diagnosis. So I have every sympathy for Mike and his 3 young daughters. It's a terrible situation to be in. What I would say is that GPs are currently in an impossible situation. They saw 40 million appointments in October alone. That's nearly 2/3 of the population in 1 month. There just aren't enough GPs to see everybody face-to-face. Not everybody needs to or wants to see a GP face-to-face. If you've got a skin condition, you can show the rash on a screen and a diagnosis can be made that way. Other things don't need to be seen, repeat prescriptions, for example. But when an issue like this turns up and it's an abdominal pain, chest pain, pelvic pain, which is persistent, needs to be explained, needs to be investigated urgently. It didn't happen in this case.
And what I said at the opening of this story is true, isn't it? People like you, experienced GPs like you, a patient walks into your room, you can see pretty much straight away. I'm not saying you can make a diagnosis, but you can think, oh, they don't look well.
Absolutely.
It's not right.
You can pick up the body language, you can pick up anxieties, concerns. You have an opportunity to physically examine the patient. That can't happen over the phone. So we've got, unfortunately, we've got a situation where, you know, people aren't able to see a GP face-to-face when they should be seeing somebody. I'm old school. You know, that for me, I would see patients the same day. 70% of appointments currently are being seen face-to-face, 70% across the board, and many of them on the same day. But that's not what people see. People expect to see GPs seeing patients face-to-face all the time, but so much of a GP's work is is invisible. It's like the iceberg underneath the surface.
Yeah.
They're looking at hospital reports, they're referring patients, they're looking at results, they're talking to pharmacists, they're doing repeat prescriptions, looking at prescription reviews. There's a lot of work being done that isn't face-to-face appointments.
But these patients are ending up in A&E because you can't see a doctor. This is why A&E is getting full. I'm working in the hospital.
So, you know, Mike's situation, even though 70% are being seen face-to-face, Mike's situation is one that nobody wants repeated, including him.
Absolutely.
Many people.
Exactly.
Many.
So are there sort of extra rules that need to come into place while we're in this emergency situation with GPs not to be able to, you know, being overstretched until that gets fixed, which we hope it will do, who knows when? You know, something like endometriosis, as you rightly say, almost impossible, very hard to diagnose anyway, but almost impossible to do over the phone. Are there certain conditions that should just be redlined, have to be seen face-to-face?
Well, I think,
blood tests done, for instance, regardless of if the appointment's over the phone? Are there ways that we can manage it?
Well, I mean, blood tests for endometriosis aren't diagnostic.
Should there be broad term?
But investigation.
Yeah,
for
investigation,
any kind of persistent pain.
Yeah.
Abdominal pain, pelvic pain, chest pain. You know, persistent headaches.
Because
there
Mike
are
would argue
red
that
flag symptoms.
even if she hadn't been seen, if the blood tests had been ordered to investigate and taken place, then that would have helped at least.
That, to me, that could have made the difference. We could have had 6 months, a year down the line with the children. But we didn't.
What do you say about pressure on GPs? To pick up on Kate's point here, is there a middle way? For example, you could say, all right, you don't have to have a mandatory appointment face-to-face with the GP for, say, a repeat prescription, for kind of routine stuff like that. But anybody who's coming forward with new symptoms, fresh symptoms that they haven't declared before, that has to be a face-to-face.
There's going to be conditions where a face-to-face would be very appropriate. It's difficult for elderly people to use, you know, remote consultations. You know, so they always prefer to see a face-to-face. But the bottom line is, you know, if you see an elderly patient in the surgery, might take them 5 to 10 minutes to undress for a physical examination, and you know, we don't have time to see everybody. We'd love to. In an ideal world.
It's just that some developments that we're all faced with just seem contraindicated from the word go. We know instinctively they don't add up. For example, getting rid of the hard shoulder on motorways. Everybody knew when that was proposed that was a bad idea. Not seeing your doctor face-to-face. You just feel instinctively, you know, that that's not a great idea.
Absolutely, I agree.
It's a fundamental.
The same with the gynaecologist. We got a letter in December till February. Then it got cancelled to March.
Right.
But people are waiting a year down the line for a gynaecologist.
Yeah.
Do you know, it's so wrong.
And a
How
GP is well placed.
Mike, as well, because
this keeps me going.
Does it?
Yeah.
Feeling like you're making a difference.
It's what Laura would want, is help people. That is Laura. When I met Laura at work, she's a bubbly person. She'll help anyone, and this is what I want to do for Laura. She would do the same for anyone else.
One of our viewers has emailed to tell us that they had a telephone consultation with their doctor 3 or 4 months ago. They were told they had a chest infection, were prescribed antibiotics. They were in heart failure and ended up in casualty a couple of weeks later in a very serious
I've had
condition.
many messages of people that lost their loved one. I've had about 400. Do you know?
Well, I suppose for
Laura
individuals
should.
watching, the message should be push if you are...
Be assertive and be persistent. Laura should have had a face-to-face consultation. She should have had an ultrasound straight away. She should have had endoscopy based on her symptoms. She didn't have that. It was inappropriate treatment, and my heart goes out to
That was the 2nd of January.
Absolutely. Look, we do have a quick response from the hospital. Stickney Surgery and Pilgrim Hospital has said in a statement the NHS in Lincolnshire would like to again extend their deepest condolences to Laura's family and you, Mike. Patient confidentiality means they're unable to comment on individual cases, but will continue to speak to you about their concerns as appropriate. Look, we wish you well and thank you for all the good advice, Hilary. Thanks you very much for talking to us.
Thank you.
Well, some of you watching may be experiencing something like this yourselves. If that's the case and you want a bit more advice and support, then just go to itv.com/helplines and it'll be there for you.